Good evening, Dominique. Thank you for joining this episode of Rich State of Mind. If you could please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I am a writer, author, editor. I have loved books since forever. I've loved words since I could learn how to write. And I always wanted to become an author, and I kind of made that happen. And my journey basically started as a child and grew with me. And I am a person that gets bored easily. So I figured if words and writing stuck with me this long, it's meant for me.
Makes sense. And so you write blogs, you edit books, you also manage social media accounts. So what got you into this uh, media, social media or online content world? What got you into that?
So when I got to college, my main goal was to become a author, go into the English track that was for creative writing. But then once I was talking to my counselors and things like that, they mentioned, coming right out of college with a creative writing degree probably wouldn't be best as far as like finances and things like that. So they directed me into the technical and professional English track. So I went through that, got into business writing, editing, publishing. Publishing didn't stick so much, but the editing and the business writing and just the capability to better connect with other people in my network and things like that. And then knowing that writing expanded over so many different platforms. So once I got into editing, I did notice that along with, publishing books and things like that, people need um, platforms where they can talk about their books or talk about the things that they're doing. And that's kind of where blogging came in. And I also had my own blog, just trying to go and explain my writing journey. It's gone now. I started it when I was younger, but I like the idea of it. And then exploring other people's online content really got me thinking about how I can help others do the same thing. So for people who don't have the time or who can't do what I do, I feel good helping them be able to do those things. And a lot of that is online content. It's very helpful, and it gets people expanded into other areas that they probably wouldn't have been if they weren't online.
Yes, because like I said earlier, online content, especially having a website or social media presence is definitely like the now, nobody,
Mhm.
not too many people I know is out there on the street passing out business cards all day. I think they have at least some
Right.
type of social media presence, at least an email, right?
hmm
So where can people find you and your services at? What's the name of your website?
DML editing and writing.com. So the DML came from basically my initials, Dominique Marie Lambright. I struggled with a title for my business. And then my dad actually was just like, well, why don't you just use your initials? So I was like, that makes sense. So DML editing and writing became a part of my life in 2014. So this past March, well, the beginning of March, was my 7th year anniversary. So
Okay, so when you wrote your first book, which we bought, um, how how did you find out about Amazon publishing publishes books? How did you figure out about you use Canva to
so
put it together?
for so I outsource book covers, and the things that I can do though is I write the book and then I'm able to format it, just learning over the years, and just doing a lot of research on how much of it I can do myself before I need other people to help me out. So I'm personally am not a graphic designer. I leave that to them, but um, I found out about Amazon. Well, actually, I've always known about Amazon, but I looked at other places that I could publish my book. Before I actually did my self-help series for my business, I had fiction, poetry books, and so I was on Lulu. Being on Lulu really wasn't as big as Amazon. So once I kind of realized that, I switched over my books to Amazon, and it was CreateSpace at first, and then they kind of transitioned over to Kindle Direct Publishing, which
Yes.
which was good because they just kind of transferred over everything that I had on CreateSpace. So that was a nice transition. It wasn't too difficult or anything like that. But I do like the fact that I get reports of like when people buy my book, or they give me graphs, and then also for, of course, royalties. It's really nice. It's all laid out there for you. So.
And so with everybody now doing Amazon, or they use ebooks now, is there still a purpose with having hard copies, like in the store, like Barnes and Nobles?
Yes. So I actually did some research on how paperback books were progressing in the market. And I think when I did the research, it was in 2019. And in 2019, there were bookstores still making billions of dollars. I don't remember the
Okay.
exact number, but as time went by, has been no decrease in paperbacks selling less than ebooks. I mean, ebooks are convenient, so that's why I do both. But I do have a big fan base for paperbacks as well, and I know the people that I know still love paperbacks. And if you're an avid reader and it's a passion of yours, we all love that paperback. You hold it in your
Mhm.
hand, have it on a bookshelf. It's always nice, and for me, it's more comfortable to like get cozied up to a fire or something, not with my phone or my tablet.
Or with a book.
Right. Yeah.
And so when it comes to creating the book, what do you find more interesting, creating the fiction or the nonfiction?
Uh, because I have such a creative mind, I love fiction. The nonfiction, for me is nice because I do get to help other people in the knowledge that I've gained over time, and then also being able to help other people publish their own books, or even if I can do anything to help them or encourage them to get their own material out, that makes me happy. But I do love fiction because that's where I started when I was younger. I literally wrote a 3-5 subject notebook story, and I threw it away because I didn't know how to finish it. But so I got frustrated. But I've always loved creating different characters, ideas, worlds, things like that.
What do you suggest for writers, and how to market their book? What are some things that you do as well?
So promoting, that is really big. You could have a great book, but if you don't have the right promoting behind it, then it could easily flop. And like I said, it could be great. It could probably be the most beneficial book in the world, but without people actually knowing about it, or you having some sort of presence, no one's gonna know about you. So I say the biggest thing is you can either do all the promoting yourself, but that means that's a lot of time and dedication. So it
Mhm.
means you need to be on social media 24/7, maybe not 24/7, but you get what I mean. But
Mhm.
you got to be on there promoting, pushing every chance you get. But if you're willing to pay some promoters and everything like that, they're not that hard to find. I think they do a great job. I pay some of my own promoters to help me out. They have access to a lot of different literary groups. I've been joined into a lot of them, but sometimes with my schedule, I don't get a chance to be in those groups as much as I want. So the promoters come into play and help me out. And
Do
then,
you? Oh, sorry.
oh, go
No, go ahead.
ahead. And
No,
then I was
no.
gonna
Yeah, I'll let you go. I'll let you go. Sorry.
so I think that's the biggest thing. And then also being able to talk about your book. A lot of people think that the book should sell itself. It's true to an extent, but if you're not able to really talk about your book as well when you do get the chances, then that also doesn't help as well. Because you should be excited about your book. You should always be talking about it. Like I said, every chance you get. You
And do you have your book on your website, or now books?
know. Yes, I have my 6 self-help books on my website. My fiction books and my self-help books are all on my author website as well. So I try to keep it separate. If the book relates to business, I'll put it on my business website. If it's just for fun, then I put them all on my author website.
And so the reason why I keep going back to the website portion, because what I've been
Mhm.
learning is when it comes to SEO and the particular niche that you have, or I'm currently working on too, your book can really
Hmm.
coincide with the other things that you're already doing. And so people
Right.
sometimes may end up stumbling across your website and then they see, oh, snap, she's got books on top of all the
Hmm.
other services that correlate with what she wrote about. And I think that's kind of the
Right.
beauty of SEO and over time, you picking up organic traffic. One thing that
Hmm.
I had learned, I listened to Project
Hmm.
24 Income School on YouTube, and they talk about over time as you're creating your articles, and then you create a physical or electronic service, which would be webinars or book. You have
Hmm.
like they have like this timer. I don't know. Do you use because I use Wix. Do you use WordPress?
Yes, I use WordPress.
Okay.
They give me reports. I think it's monthly. It might be monthly, or I think I can check it weekly, but I think most of the time they give me like the monthly overview.
So those of you that thinking about building a website, you have Wix, Squarespace, you have WordPress. WordPress, I've heard multiple times that it's for maybe more advanced people making a website, but I feel like from what I've noticed, it looks like it's worth it because
It's
I like
pretty
our layouts.
yeah, it's pretty once you get it down, because I don't think it's that difficult. I've always used WordPress. My first blog was with WordPress. I didn't have a domain, but it was like the whatever the name of my blog was
Mhm.
.wordpress.com. So yeah, I think it's pretty simple. I think I've heard the opposite. People usually say WordPress is for, beginner website
Really?
designers and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because Wix was pretty easy for me, but I've been really thinking about switching over to WordPress because WordPress does have Bluehost is way cheaper than the
Mhm.
Wix services, and then they have this SEO algorithm that as you're typing, it tells you how good you're doing. Because I write for one of my friends that I met
Mhm.
because of Amira. I write articles for him on his WordPress website, and then I just
Mhm.
do backlinks to my own website when I write for him.
Oh, nice.
So that's
Cool.
how I kind of
Yeah,
sends
the
traffic.
yeah, the SEO portion is very nice because I do the same thing. Like it'll show me the little green, the yellow, or the red lights, and the red lights I'll focus on the most, and then move up to the yellow if I can. But it is very helpful as well. It'll tell you like how many headers you're missing, or like, oh, you need more headers, or oh, you need more keywords, things like that.
Oh yeah, and for those that don't know what SEO is, pretty much SEO is search engine operator, I believe,
Optimization.
optimization. And for that, that's pretty much your ability to be able to be found on Google because nobody's really using Bing like that
Hmm.
or or Yahoo. So that's a big thing because
Hmm.
again, you're not gonna be able to reach everybody in the world, not on
Right.
your own. And
Hmm.
so, based on whatever niche or keyword that you're searching for, which by the way, keyword research is not as simple as it used to be. Typing, self-help, 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 self-help a million times, and now people are going to
Hmm.
find you. You have to be put
Right.
a lot more girth into the content. It has to have some type of rich content into it. And plus, too, there's millions and billions of blogs out there.
Right.
So when it comes to being found through your website, you providing a product like in Dominique's case, a book, you have to really be providing a service because I have short attention span. If I don't see what I need in maybe 6 or 7 sentences, I'm like, all right,
Hmm.
this is not helping me here. So some things
Right.
I've learned is, answer the question in the beginning and then break down the question as you type it out.
Mhm.
So that way you kind of grab the attention. All right, I got my answer. Now, how did we get to that answer? Uh, so on and
Right.
so forth. So I'm not sure. Is that the
Also,
same mindset with the book? Or go ahead.
so I was just gonna add in there real quick that the activity on your website also helps get you higher on Google. So the more recent activity that you have on your website, it's gonna be higher on Google, and that just moves into the SEO. If you have great SEO too. So
And then when you talk
and
about
then
activity, time somebody's been on time on your site, the bounce rate, stuff like that.
um that, and then also to just so like for me with when I post blogs, I post a blog every week, so that gives me good activity. Or like if you're adding on page content, as far as like updating new pages or adding new pages. As long as there's some activity on there, you're more likely to get higher up on Google.
Gotcha. And so transitioning from blog to book writing, because I also intend to write a book eventually. Is it the same thought
Mhm.
process, or do you have to kind of change your style of writing when you go from blogs to a book?
You don't necessarily have to, because however you write your book is however you write your book. You can have your own preferred style on how you want it to look, how you want it to read. Um, so a lot of the time, so with self-help books, you want to have a topic and then you want to have a purpose for that topic. So when you go in and write, let's say your table of contents, you want to include everything under that topic that you feel is beneficial for your reader. And if you go back through and you were like, oh, this ain't that important, then take it out, because you want the information in self-help to be right there to the point. You don't want to draw anything out. You want it to be as concise as possible. So when you are coming up with the table of contents, when you actually get to that chapter, make sure you have subheadings, like your top header, subheadings, and then bullet points if that's necessary. So it doesn't always have to be like paragraphs and paragraphs of content. You can have bullet points and then maybe lower down explain some of those bullet points, or you could have graphs in there or
Hmm.
charts, whatever's going to help get your information across. Because it's not self-helps can be fun to read, but that's not necessarily what they're there for. They're to help you, for you to learn something. So it doesn't have to be like this drawn out information.
Yeah, yeah. So some people, you know, it's been, I guess it's kind of like unspoken rule, hey, you have to at least have 1,000 words in order for the SEO to kind of pick you up. But if the
Hmm.
if the content doesn't require you to have 1,000 words, then make it 500. Just
Right.
stretching out the content for no reason. When
Hmm.
because if I say, hey, how do you make a cake? It could be only take 600 words, and then I'm like
Right.
finding different things. Instead of cleaning the spatula, off with soap, you got to go to the store and get the soap for 6.99, and then it just added a bunch of extra stuff in there. So
Right.
when it comes,
The
I
fluff.
think, yeah, 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 the fluff, and it's just like, all right, because that's all people are gonna be doing is just scrolling
Hmm.
through there. I think the one
Right.
thing that's been pretty interesting is because I focus on personal finance, personal development, real estate stuff like that. So some very
Hmm.
saturated content. And so I
Right.
believe I believe in writing and what you're passionate about. Some people they're able to pick up things because they know that the competition is not that high. Like, one of the
Right.
guys I know, he writes about dirt biking. He has no passion for dirt biking, but he knows that
Hmm.
the that realm is very low competition. So for me,
Hmm.
personal finance and real estate investing, stock, stuff like that is my passion. And then when I read those blogs, I'm like, hey, it's a lot of competition because people are going really in depth. And some of these people they have a high authority because they are CPAs, they are real estate agents and stuff like that. What
Hmm.
advice would you have for people that are going into maybe niches that are very highly competitive? What advice would you say you have for them in order to kind of stand out?
So a lot of people, they say don't recreate the wheel. If it's already there, use it, but find a creative way to go about it. So use your creative ability to maybe express the information in a different way. So like there's infographics. If you want to recreate someone else's information, you can recreate it in an infograph. Or if maybe the content you read didn't have a lot of images, because people are picture learners as well. So like they want to see what you're talking about at times. So you can go ahead and add more images, but make sure they have alt text so that they get picked up on Google. And then with
That was a good tip.
there's
That was a good take, Don.
so many
That was
then
a good.
there's like I actually recently learned that
I did
alt
like a month
text.
ago. I just learned that like a
Yeah,
month ago.
same. So and then like there's so many words in the English language. It's like, and there's also tools to help like paraphrase or summarize to help you out and things like that. So I think there's always another way to go about it. There's always a different way to structure it. And then also, like, if there's different headings you can use to catch people's attention, because in there's H1 and H2 headings, and those headings should have your keywords. You might have smaller headings in there somewhere, but you want to make sure that the H1 and H2 have the keywords.
And just a quick tip for those that intend to put graphs and pictures, uh, your best bet in order to make sure that the speed is not slow on your website or any blog that you're trying to have somebody open. Try to minimize the file size as much as possible without it looking too grainy. So what I use is compressed JPEG. So I can compress JPEG, a PNG, or a PDF, and one other format that I'm missing. But it allows me to compress the file, and instead of a nice quality picture that's usually like 3 megabytes, I'm able to downsize it to like 700 kilobytes, and it still looks great when I show it on the website, but it speeds up my time on my website a lot faster. So sometimes, especially when you're making those staple or pillar posts that are very descriptive and you're showing graphs and pictures, you want to put that content in there. Just be making sure you don't have 10 3 megabyte pictures in your blog. It'll take a while for people to open it up.
Yeah.
So that was something I had to learn the hard way. It was like taking 9 seconds, 9 to 15 seconds to open up my website. I'm just like, what is going on? Because it didn't count for me because I already had the what is it called, the cache of the cookies already saved on my phone. So it's quick for me. But I try to use somebody else's laptop. It took 15 seconds. So I was like, what's going on? And that's when I learned about the compressing the picture file. So with what are the other what is the book that you said you just finished in December, and what was that about?
So the last of that series, well, it's not the last of the series because I plan on doing some more this year, but the last one from that series that I did was called Scene Setting. Well, actually, it's probably not the exact name, but it's about scene setting, and it just focuses mostly on how to create the right type of scene in your book. So making sure that it's detailed enough for the reader to picture, that it is, how do I do? I mean, basically that it's really not descriptive. My words. Just making sure that the scene that you're creating is descriptive and that people are being able to imagine the things that you're writing about, or putting the characters in the right areas in your scene, or I mean, it's
sounds like
it sounds
screenwriting.
vague.
Sounds like it would help
It's
somebody.
I'm
Yeah.
what I'm saying is vague, but it's like, I mean, it's just really about scene writing, or just setting the stage for your book in
No,
certain
yeah, you're making
areas.
sense. Yeah, you're definitely making sense. Yeah,
I
because
felt like I was rambling there for a
no, you're
second.
fine because you're definitely like you could be reading a book, but it's just like you're just reading it. You're not really feeling like you're in there. And I think that's when you really
Right.
capture somebody in anything that you write, when the person feels like they could be there, they feel the emotions. They when you say, in the book you're describing somebody's heartbeat increasing,
Mm-hmm.
you like imagine the heart pumping harder and harder. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely know. I'm picking up what you're putting down pretty much.
Okay. Um, but yeah, so I mean, that one is smaller of some of my books. So like that one and the one that came before that was focusing on your writing. So that talks a lot about like outlining and making sure it goes for nonfiction and fiction, making sure that you're focused on what you're trying to do. So um for self-help per se, outlining would be very helpful so that you don't get off subject or get off what you're trying to get your reader to realize or to learn throughout your book. So those two are actually smaller only because those are really specific books.
And so when it comes to your book coaching, as far as you physically, either through Zoom or on the phone, coaching people through writing their books, what are
Mhm.
how does that go as far as, how much coaching are you giving? Uh, and because of what I was thinking about because I was thinking about trying to hire you for when I write my first book. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have so many questions. It's gonna be to the point where it's like she might as well write it herself. So like, what type of coaching are you providing to where it still kind of allows that person to go through the motions themselves, but they have you for help?
So there is two different coaching. So there's an editing service that I call editing semi-coaching, and that's because they may have already written their book, but because they do have many questions, like you said, about their book, or they may not feel like it's finished, or they feel like maybe they can't write anymore. My job in that instance towards editing and helping them with that is to really ask them all the questions, and maybe not all, but as many questions as I can come up with that a reader might have after they've read their book, or maybe something that they didn't elaborate on as much. I'm asking them questions to pull out more information so that they can kind of finish off their book or make it feel more whole in an aspect. And so that really goes into, it can go into possibly ghostwriting, but if you can get the content out, I'm willing to help edit it and shape it in the way that you want. And then the other service is just straight up coaching, and that kind of ranges depending on what you need. So, say go back to your instance of having a lot of questions. If all your questions if I'm answering all your questions and then you still feel like you can't get the content out, then I would suggest ghostwriting. I would say, okay, well, I know everything that you want to write. Let me write some of this, see if this is what you're looking for. And then if they would like to proceed with ghostwriting, they can go that route if they feel like that's easier. But with coaching, my job is really just to kind of help you with how you're structuring your sentences, how you want your content to be structured, how you making sure that all the information that you have for this topic gets out so that people are understanding you. Like I said, the content should be concise and to the point, but sometimes you may find yourself in a section where you might have to do a little more explaining just so that it's really clear for someone. Um,
Hmm.
so basically it just comes down to if you can write the content or not. Or you might be able to, but you might feel like it's too hard, or you might feel like it's too much. So it's really up to the client at the end of the day. For me, I'll make my suggestion. I might be like, okay, I had a client where she wrote her whole book. It was nonfiction. It was about her life. She had very minimal content. I asked a ton of questions. She was writing out the content, but she wasn't able to structure sentences properly or structure her paragraphs properly. I even gave her the instruction to do so. It just wasn't clicking. And
Hmm.
that happens sometimes. Everybody's not a writer that has a good idea. So I suggested to her ghostwriting. So I think when it gets to that point where you're really struggling, it may just be a little bit easier for you to go the ghostwriting route.
So in that part, when there's somebody who writes their whole book and then, you provide the coaching, editing, you read the whole book and you write notes as you're reading it.
Yes, yes. So how that works is, so the semi-coaching one's a little bit harder to price out right away if someone hasn't finished their book. Usually I go with, well, what is your goal? Because I base everything off of word count, except for like my formatting and there's one other service that's not based on word count. But majority of my service is based on word count. So if you have a book that's say like 20,000 words, but there's still more to write, I ask them, what is your goal? And I kind of base the price off of that. Now, if we go over, then of course there's additional fees. But for coaching, there is like a monthly fee for that.
And so when it comes to, because you said there are some people that just have a hard time pushing out content. What about
Mhm.
those that have writer's block, or if you have writer's block, what are some techniques that you recommend for people?
I actually wrote a blog on it. So for me, so I mentioned some of the things that I do, and then some of the things that I kind of researched on the internet that other people do. For me, going back and reading what I've already written definitely helps, because then once I'm reading it, I'm getting excited about it again. I'm starting to get more ideas about how I want to end it, and starting from knowing how you want it to end it, and kind of going backwards sometimes helps too. So like when I reread it, I'm sitting here generating more ideas. My creative mind is starting to get flowing again, because I'm like,
Uh,
okay, I'm reading this, I already wrote this, okay, I know where I'm at, how do I get to where I need to go, you know? And then another thing is stepping away from it. Sometimes people need to just take a break. So you can take a couple days, maybe even a week if you need to, and then come back to it and be like, all right, I'm ready to go again. And then there is also finding things that help you help peace come to mind, because I write better when I feel at peace. So if I can find something that gets me relaxed, a lot of times music is it for me. So if I got some music in the background, I'm sitting there and my creative juices are flowing. Also, going to read somebody else's works of art can sometimes be inspiring for your own as well.
yeah, jazz is jazz for me. I like putting on jazz, and I usually am
Mhm.
going on for hours. What do you find is the most difficult part when it comes to writing?
For me, because I am an editor too, I have to focus on not editing as I write. Because I might,
I can
I
imagine that.
might be, I might be writing, and then like, man, you don't know how hard it is if I like space too much, or like I misspell a word, and I'm like, just keep typing, just keep typing. Oh, I gotta go back and edit that word. Or like if I know I messed up the sentence, but I'm like on a roll, like it's so I like, "Ugh, I gotta go back." So
I
that
can
that's
see
the
that.
hardest thing.
With you working, how do you manage, being able to work on your business? What's your
Mhm.
day like?
Um, so I try, because my whole thing for 2021 was to also get some self-care. So I'm a planner and I like to stay organized. So I've literally dedicated um certain hours of the day towards things. So I currently work with a medical marijuana company as well as contracted. I'm the director of content marketing. So I set hours aside to work because it's kind of like a full-time position. So I still do my business. I mean, it is part of my business because it's contracted, but like other clients that I have and stuff, I'll schedule that around what I'm doing for that company. So I'll schedule like, okay, 5 hours, I'm going to be working on stuff for this company. The other 3 hours I dedicate to if I'm working on it, like another project or something. I think my cutoff time for working at night is like 8:39. Sometimes I would work well into 1 a.m. And I've learned to put stuff aside, or like tell myself this can wait till tomorrow. So it's a struggle because I'm a workaholic. I'll admit that.
Yes.
But with the goal in mind is so that I'm straight for the future. I don't want to have to worry about my finances too much later on down the line.
That makes sense. I try to do the 8:30, 9 o'clock as well. I just recently started that because I find myself not having enough time to work out. So I try to make sure I
Mhm.
get about 7 hours of sleep, wake up early enough in the morning to work out. Because I wake up for work generally usually 5 o'clock in the morning. So if I want to
Oh
work
man.
out, I need to wake up at 4, and then
Mhm.
get my son ready and stuff like that. So time management and obviously working around our main jobs is uh definitely a must, because a lot of us, right,
Mhm.
a lot of us that are trying to accomplish the goals and financial freedom that we want, we have families, we have full-time jobs, and
Mhm.
mustering up that energy to have this creative mind when I spent so much of my energy and time, with the family, with my job. It's a lot, and I think it's definitely worth the reward when you've accomplished it.
Right.
And it's definitely, especially when you see that hard copy book, I'm pretty sure you're like, I did that. uh
Yes. I tell people, even if I didn't make any money from it, I would still love it because it's my passion. And having a bookshelf full of your own books, it's definitely nice to look at.
that's
And
kind of cool.
yeah, and I wanted to dedicate more time this year to writing as well. So I've set my goals high because I want to do 4 fiction books and then 4 more self-help ones. So um I'm definitely trying to do some time management.
I feel you. What's your most favorite part of the publishing journey?
Um, I would say there's two parts. So one, writing the book, because that's what I love to do. I love words, and then also when it's finished and I see that the results of my promoting have paid off, and then I get to see the reviews that people leave on Amazon, or like people tell me, "Oh, I've seen your book, and I'm reading it right now," or they tell me they loved it. Even if they don't leave a review, it's still wonderful to hear. I try to get people to leave reviews though, because it definitely helps. But
Does it help on
yeah,
Amazon when you do that?
yes,
Is that a part
Amazon
that's
and
popular?
Goodreads. Yeah,
Okay,
because
good. I didn't know that.
I've noticed, I do have reviews on Goodreads. I wish some of them were on Amazon because then I could rank higher on Amazon. But I'm actually pretty proud. I've looked at some of the ranking of some of my books, and they're in the thousands, which is great compared to knowing that there's millions of that same type of book.
Yep. Yep.
I
No,
can't
you're
wait to
right.
get in the hundreds.
Yeah, and I'm assuming so. One thing I've noticed with books, there's some books that just get popular, and the author's been dead for a decade or so. So
Mhm.
definitely, your book is evergreen content. So, and for those that don't know what
Mhm.
evergreen content is, it's content that could always be helpful to readers. And so, when it
Mhm.
comes to books, I don't see books going away in the next 50 to 100 years. So,
No.
20 years from now, your book all of a sudden now sold 20 million copies. So that's the cool thing about it. You did it, it's done. Maybe you'll do maybe a
Right.
second edition, but for the
Mhm.
most part, it's done and it can make you money for a lifetime.
Right. Yeah, and it's that what is it called? It's one of those things that can sell itself. So I mean, you can continue to market it and things like that, but honestly, once it's out there and people start talking, they're recommending you. Yeah.
How many times have you heard how many times have you heard Rich Dad Poor Dad? Robert
Oh my
Kiyosaki.
God. Uh, I've heard it so much. My parents, I think, had like 3 copies.
Yeah, I don't even think he markets the book anymore.
Probably not.
He doesn't need to. And then he's all obviously he has all those other books
Hmm.
that he written as well. I think he wrote like 13 books. What is your least
Hmm.
favorite process of the publishing process?
Uh, hmm. I guess that initial um uploading it, because sometimes they send back things like, oh, your cover doesn't fit, and it could be the right size, but for Amazon, for whatever reason, it didn't fit, or like if your documents won't upload properly. I had a guy's book that I was uploading and it took weeks because they kept rejecting it. I was like, why? So that, I mean, the that would be just like the hiccups of Amazon, but I actually enjoy a lot of the process. Formatting can be a little bit of a hassle just based on, I don't know, many factors. Sometimes when you're trying to format your page numbers, it just, for whatever reason, won't go. Or if you're trying to get the margins just right, or when you're trying to fix the headers on the book pages. Yeah, so
Tedious.
that stuff can be tedious. Yeah.
Yeah, tedious. How
Yeah.
long do you recommend somebody that wants to write a book, but they have a jam-packed day, right? Do you
Hmm.
recommend maybe an hour a day towards writing that
Yeah,
book, or
I would say so. Minimum, just because the hour gives you, that first 10 minutes to really get your mind prepared to start writing. And then maybe that next 10 minutes to just start writing whatever's on your mind. And if you're like me and you're gonna edit, try to wait till the end of that hour, maybe the last 10 minutes of that hour. Get out what you can get out, start organizing it towards the end. It helps to just get it all out there. That way you don't forget anything. And if you think of something later by reviewing your notes or whatever type of content you just wrote, you might come up with other things as well. So I would say minimum an hour, just because if you do 30 minutes, you're not going to get the most benefit out of it. 30 minutes is too short.
okay? And so, how long does it usually take you to write a book? Because you've been pushing these books out.
It just really depends on the content, the research, and how fast your mind is moving with the content. Like, people get writer's block. I'm not an exception. That's how I've learned the things that I can do to kind of combat some of that. I mean, it takes some time to actually have that stuff to combat it actually work though. Like you can do it and practice it and hopefully, first, second time it works, but you got to get really in the zone of it.
That makes sense. So what are the current books you're currently working on?
So I am working on a fiction one called Love Yourself First. Uh, I've written most of it. It's coming out April 30th, so I have most of it. I'm doing a lot of self-editing right now.
Hmm.
And then I do plan on doing a point of view self-edit. I mean, not self-edit, self-help book. And then what's the other one? I have, man, if you could see my folders on my computer, I have so many book ideas.
That's good.
um, yeah, so I'm trying to, let me see if I can look at it right now. I am trying to do, uh, I'm sorry. I really want to get the names of these out for you. I my other fiction ones that I'm trying to do this year are Confessions of a Psychopath. So I want to do a psychological thriller. And then it's another book called Thought I Was Gone, and that's going to be like a paranormal book. And I'm
Okay.
excited to do that because sci-fi is my favorite. So like science fiction, paranormal stuff. I love that stuff. It's just I've always been good at writing romance and erotica books. So so yeah, so most of the time I'm thinking up a lot of fiction books, but I do have a lot of ideas for self-help books. So I'm kind of always learning what people need. So there's another book that I want to do this year called Showing Not Telling, and that has to do with in your writing, we want to show the reader through like the character's actions,
Okay.
dialogue, well, not necessarily dialogue because then you're telling, but just in how they move. So like different ways to say instead of Sally said, you could be Sally whispered as she was blah blah blah, or as so and so is walking into the room, she's doing this and that, and that's kind of showing you instead of just telling you exactly what's happening. And then I want to do a book about the author life and then self-publishing.
I think that author life would definitely be very helpful for people that are trying to write.
Hmm.
So here's an interesting question. If you had to pick, and they could be dead or alive, who would you have wanted to be your author mentor?
Oh man. Okay. So when I was big on poetry, I was really into Edgar Allan Poe. I
Okay,
like the dark poetry.
that's a
And then
good pick.
Maya Angelou is pretty inspirational. So she definitely would have been good. I do love Ellen Hopkins though, and I'm pretty sure she's still alive. She the way she writes her prose is amazing. As far as fiction goes, though, I don't, I recently learned about an author. Her name is hard to say though. I think she's like Russian or something like that. But she writes scary horror type books, and the first book well actually I want to buy more of her books, but the book that I read of hers for the first time was The Dead House, and literally the first ever book to give me chills while I'm reading it. I know a lot of people
Oh,
like Stephen King. um I like his movies. I haven't really read any of his books. So
Misery
I
would probably be one of the best ones I've read from him.
oh, okay. And I know people said it was really good, but I got traumatized when I was a child. My cousin made me
Oh, you talking about the
watch
movie or the
it,
book? The movie?
the movie. So I was just like, when I saw the book, I was like, nah, I'm good. I don't like clowns. But so I would say um I can't think of her, like I said, her name's really hard to say. I'd have to be looking at it, but I would like her to be an author mentor. Like I said, the book's name is The Dead House. Amazing book. It literally goes into an investigation, and on the page it looks like investigation files. Like the way she styled and did that book formatting wise also had an effect on me. So I was just like, this is awesome. But the
That's a nice
content,
tip.
amazing. Yeah.
That's nice to get the reader even more engaged. The formatting is geared
Hmm.
towards what you're talking about. That's something to
Right.
take in consideration. I don't know how that would go, how
Yeah.
I would do that with real estate. Maybe my pages look like lease contracts, lease agreements,
Yeah.
but
There's, like I said, there's so many creative ways to do things that it's just endless.
so one final question. So I always like to ask all guests, what do you consider your rich state of mind? What is your big why as to why you're pushing out all this content? You got all that stuff behind you right now with all your services. You're a
Hmm.
busy woman and you're doing a lot. You're pushing out more books than people would just be happy to push out one book in their lifetime. You're pushing out
Hmm.
several. So what is keeping you going on day to day?
My children. So when I in 2014, I had my first daughter in June. So before that, though, I had worked at Target. I was still in college and everything. And I got fired from my job at Target. I kept running to the bathroom because I thought I had to throw up, you know. But they ended up letting me go. And at the time, her dad had a job and everything like that. But I'm always busy, like mentioned earlier. I get bored fast, so me just sitting around, I'm still doing school stuff, but I wanted to contribute. So I took to the internet. I started out on Thumbtack, and once I got my first client on there, I realized how nice it is to like work on your own hours and be able to manage your own schedule and things like that. But having your first child and not knowing if you're going to have a job or be able to provide for them and stuff, not that I had any doubt that her other parent wouldn't be able to do it. It was just, I don't want to be that one that's not doing anything, you know? So I've always been motivated to do things and be independent, do things for myself, and always have money in your pockets because you never know what's going to happen. So having children definitely keeps me motivated because I don't want them to ever feel like we're in a bad situation or there's a situation we can't get out of and it just keeps getting worse. You know, I want to be able to make sure that they get everything that they need and then some.
And I'm really big when it comes to having kids, right? They didn't choose to be in this world. We made decisions for them
Hmm.
to have came in this world. So having the maturity, having the drive to make sure you're doing everything you can to provide, your kids with the best life or maybe a better
Hmm.
life than what you had. I think it's
Hmm.
always awesome when I see other people do that. I'm always rooting for parents because I think the impact that you have on your kids, you may not think they're watching or paying attention, but they remember a lot of things.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I remember some things and my parents are like, you remember that? Or even right now, my son is 8 and he reminds me of certain things. And I'm like, you were paying attention to that. So uh,
Hmm.
definitely, I think your kids are gonna, definitely inspired by you. Uh, you are continuously pushing out content and you are definitely not full of fluff. You know what you're doing. You seem like a perfectionist. So in a good way. Because I mean,
Well,
right, when it
thank
comes to
you.
editing, right, you could try to
Yeah.
be as excellent as possible.
Hmm.
So I really appreciate your time, Dominique. I think this was very informative, breaking down between being able to market yourself, writing a book, being able to incorporate that with your website, having a little bit of
Hmm.
SEO, obviously, with being found on Google. Your content is key. Don't no fluff. Content is
Hmm.
key, and having some type of
Right.
substance that is helpful to others. The heart in it has to be I want to help, and the money will come. The
Yeah,
money will
my
come.
dad always told me that. He said, "Just do what you love and the money will come. Don't worry about it." It can be hard though when you need it, but I did learn that if I'm enjoying what I'm doing and trying not to worry so much on the dollar amount or like, okay, if I get this project, I can put it in here because if I overwhelm myself, nothing's going to be good. You know, the content isn't going to be where it needs to be. My client isn't going to be as happy, things like that, and it can become a domino effect. So it's always good to know how much you can take on and make sure that you're not doing anything that you can't finish.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dominique. This has been a great, interesting episode because I personally like it as well because it's also a journey I'm going through as well. And I'm pretty sure other people will benefit from this bit of information. And where can people find you again on your website?
DMLeditingandwriting.com.
Awesome. Thank you.